Hello, and thanks for joining me today. So, I've been getting into these motion crafts, animated stamp sets lately, and I just think they're so fun to uh, play with, and I think they create a really fun interactive experience. So, I purchased a few uh, die sets from their website, and this is the one that I'll be playing with today. It's a larger kit than some of the other ones that I've already shot videos of, and it's really pretty cool. So, getting right into it, here's the stamp set that is included, and this is a large one because the other die sets that I purchased, they only come with one animated stamp and no sentiments or anything. So you kind of have to add a little something out of your stash to create a full project if you're creating a card or something like that. So this one's really nice because it does include some sentiments. So it has have a magical day, surprise, a gift for you, happy birthday, magical moments, and celebrate. So a lot of really general year-round sentiments that can be used for a variety of different occasions. So I really love that. Then you get not just the one animated stamp, but you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 animated stamps. Good variety there, and some different sized ones too. And also, there are some that run, it looks like they have horizontal lines and some that have vertical lines. So that'll be interesting because that means that your interaction, some you might kind of pull up and down, and some you might pull left and right. So that would be fun. And then these, I don't know, I don't think these are words, but it's interesting because it could be like a little border. So let me just run an animation grid across this. Maybe we can preview these. So I'll go side to side. Yeah, so it does look like 3 of them animate in the vertical side to side orientation. I really like this one that spins here. And then it looks like this is hearts and this is stars. So kind of cute. And then let me just run it in the other direction. So those are fun. I've used the heart before, so the heart is like a pulsating heart. I really like the spinning animations. I think those read really well. Sometimes it can be hard to see the animation. Like these ones, I think those are a little hard to read. They're not quite as crisp. And this one's kind of cute. It's like a mouse that's hopping up and down out of a little gift box. So really cute. And included you also get non-animated set of stamps to go with this kind of mouse theme, I guess. So you get the mouse and then different things the mouse can be holding. So a heart, I guess he could be wearing the party hat and the bow tie and maybe holding the heart and the envelope. And this right here, it kind of looks like another paw because it's the same shape. So maybe you can stamp that and have his paw, I guess, in a different direction. I'm not too sure how you would use that, but interesting that they have it. And this sort of series of stamps, they each have coordinating dies to cut them out, which is really nice, even though they're like super small and they look like they would be relatively easy to fussy cut, but I always appreciate coordinating dies because I'm not the best fussy cutter. So you get the stamp set. You are supposed to get 5 animation grids. For some reason, my kit didn't have it, but I'm not too upset about that because I much prefer to cut my own animation grids anyhow, so I probably wouldn't really use this all too much anyways, so I'm not that upset that my kit didn't have it, but I'm sure it's just kind of a oversight. But the die set is really super cool because it does come with 2 dies that will cut your own custom animation grid. And one of the reasons why I'm preferring to do this over using the provided ones is I don't know if they only come in black, but it seems like what's included in the kit is always these black striped ones. And I feel like that's not always going to kind of fit in with the design of everything else that's going on with my project. So I'd much rather find a coordinating colored cardstock, die cut my own animation grid, and then be able to stamp in that same color so that everything fits in a little bit better and is coordinated with whatever pattern paper or design that I have going on with the rest of the project. So it's nice to have the two because it looks like this one runs vertical and this one runs horizontal, which matches up really well because you do have stamps that have the two orientations. So they've provided dies that will cut out animation grids so that you can use all of their stamps. So I think that's really well thought out. The main die is this one here, which cuts out your gift tag, and it even has a little slot cut out from the top where you can feed a ribbon through. And then you get 3 dies that will cut out different shaped apertures, and that's going to be the little window where all of your animation is going to happen. But if you didn't want to use the animation stamps, you could easily make shaker tags too, and these little aperture dies will cut out windows that you can fill with shaker bits as well. So they each cut straight, and then they have a stitched border around it, so you get the one shape that's kind of similar to the tag shape, then you've got this sort of arched window, and then a circle. And then on top of that you get 2 styles of tag inserts. So this one is meant to, let's say this is your tag, it's meant to pull up and down. So it's for the style of animation where you run the grid horizontally and then you pull your stamped image up and down. And this one has the tab on the side, so it looks like that's the one that's for sliding left and right. So really nice that they have everything thought out for you. And then on top of that, there are actually 2 decorative dies that will cut out the tab, like a decorative layer for your tab. And what's really nice is this style die cuts out the front and the back of the tab. So you can wrap a decorative piece around the entire tab itself. And then this one only cuts out the front, but it does die cut the word pull. So that's a really nice option, because not everybody, it may not be obvious to everyone that they need to pull on the tab. And so having this die cut straight in means you don't have to like stamp a little arrow or stamp the word pull or anything like that. It's built in. So it's really nice. And then these little bits here, so that's this is a coordinating die for the mouse, and then these are coordinating dies for all the little things that the mouse can be holding. And so what I'm noticing, oh, that's interesting. So there are actually 2 little paw dies. So that's really cool. So if you did want your mouse to be holding something, you can die cut his little paws in one pass, because they give you 2 of the exact same shape die. And then that way you can kind of layer on top and have it kind of really look like he's holding it, whatever item, so like the heart or the envelope. It's really nice that was pretty thoughtful that they created that they included 2 of the paws, because that way you can just run it through the one time and have both pieces. So that's really cool. That's a really well thought out die set. So last two dies are, this one cuts out a little slot at the bottom of your tag, and that's for your tab to feed through so that you can pull in and out without pulling the entire tab out of the gift tag. And then this one is just a fun little sentiment banner. And I don't even, I don't think I have a banner that is that shaped, or a die that's that shaped. So that's a really nice one to have in my stash now. So you, one of the things that attracted me to this kit is that these are so general purpose. I can just make tags for every day. I can make shaker window tags. I can obviously do these projects, which are another fun, kind of unique style of interaction, but they're all just very general purpose. And I know when I look at buying anything, I try to look at, how much use I can get out of it, and if I can use it year round for multiple projects. And this definitely meets that bar, because it's really a fantastic set to do this really fun animated stamps, but you can use it far and beyond just that. So really great all-purpose, year-round, all-occasion set. So very cool. You get that. You get the stamp set. You should also be getting animation grids, and then they do also include this, I've already used some of it. This is a pack of foam that has double-sided adhesive, so it's already got all of the adhesive, it's ready to go, and it's cut in these really thin 1/8 inch strips. So that's really cool. I mean, I tend to use my own foam sheets that I put double-sided adhesive on, and essentially I make sheets like this for myself, but it is convenient to use them in this format. So I'll be using up these, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the last thing is just an instruction sheet so that you know how to put one of these animated tags together. So I did play around with this a little bit, and I have some things die cut and prepared, and I did a test run. So in theory this should work. I test ran some of what I'm going to try to do today. So here's the pieces that I've prepared in advance. So using that main tag, I die cut out from 120 pound just white cardstock. Whenever I do anything that's interactive or has some movement, I like to use really thick, heavyweight cardstock. So I've got that, and then I'm using the same die I cut out of some decorative paper, the same shape, only I ran it through a second time to cut out the aperture window and to cut out the little slot at the bottom here. And I added some acetate. So this has a nice acetate window. And how this would work is you would put your tag down here through that slot, and this is what they'll pull in and out to create the animation. So this has been cut as well, and before I put the acetate over it, I kind of stuck this in and I traced out just lightly with a pencil the borders so that I would know where I could safely stamp. So that's ready. And then I did also die cut out my own animation grid. A couple of things that I've noticed with these. So I did die cut from, I think, a previous kit from cardstock that has a white core, And I don't think that really works as well, because sometimes when you die cut that, you can still see a little bit of the white on the edges, and I think that it's better to use a solid core cardstock. That way the color is the same through and through, and it helps you get a more crisp animation. I do also, as soon as I cut one of these pieces, I do line it with some acetate. So this does have acetate behind it. And one of the reasons why I do it right away is because these lines on the animation grid, they're just really super thin. And so it can be a little fragile, and I'm just worried that it'll get snagged or caught on, maybe the edge of another die cut and either get, snagged and, tear possibly, or get misshapen. So you do want it to stay as, straight and crisp as possible. So as soon as I die cut it, what I do is I just put a little bit of glue on my hand here, and then I just kind of tap it gently to get a nice thin layer of glue all around. I run a bead of glue around all four sides, and then what I do is actually I put like a piece of a shop towel down, face down, and then another piece of shop towel, and then I'll burnish it completely. So the shop towel on the top will prevent scratching so that you keep your acetate nice and clean, and then the shop towel on the bottom will soak up any glue that happens to kind of ooze out. So that's how I've been preparing these little animation grids. And because there's acetate on the back of my window as well, ultimately when all of this goes together, that animation grid is going to get sandwiched between two pieces of acetate. So it's going to be well protected, and no chance of something getting snagged on it and tearing up. So that's how I've been preparing my animation grids. And it is a little bit of extra work. So when you use their animation grids are printed on acetate. So it's so much easier to use their sheets. And so that's a big plus for using what's provided in the kit. I kind of just like the look of being able to create something like this where it coordinates with the pattern paper that I'm using, and then I'll stamp in green as well, and that way everything kind of goes together a little bit better. So that's what I've done there. So my big idea here is that I want to create Christmas tags, and I actually want to create my own animation and put the gift recipient's name on the tag and have that animate. So I did experiment a little bit with creating a custom animation using just a sentiment stamp, and it seemed to work out pretty well. You can create sort of a blinking sentiment. So in my previous video, I did one that said happy birthday. So as the happy was, when the happy was visible, birthday was not visible, and then it just alternates. So it worked out pretty well, and so I'm gonna see if I can do that here. But what I'll be using, because I do want to put the gift recipient's name, is I'll be using Pink and Main's Clickable Stamp Set. So these are really cool. They come like this, and it's a pegs system. So these are each individual letters that can click into one another, so you can build out your word or your sentence even, and either have it run left to right or have it read top to bottom. So because they have pegs on both orientations. So this will be kind of an experiment. These are rather thin letters. The font is pretty thin, so I don't know how well this is going to read when we have it stamped through the grid, but we'll find out. So I already have prepared this. So it's gonna say 4 lists, and it's going to animate. So go for list, for list, for list. So that's the goal. What I'm going to do is I am just going to line. The key to all of this is that you want your you want everything to kind of line up as straight as possible. So you want your animation lines to be straight, you want your animation grid to be straight. So I'm gonna tape off the right along where I drew my pencil marks, just so that I know the safe areas to stamp within and to hold this down. Okay, so I have this all. Let me just give myself a little wiggle room. We'll do that. Okay, so that's taped down. And then the other thing that I didn't show was, and that's going to be the key to all of this, is, oh, here it is. So this is an animation grid that I cut out of really super thin acetate. And then I just stamped a couple times with StazOn so that I can actually see the grid lines while I'm stamping and get everything nicely lined up. This did snag a little bit, so you can see at the top there's a little bit that's kind of all, some of it's torn, some of it's just misshapen, but down here it's still really straight, and so I've been just using this bottom portion. And if this gets beat up too much more, then I'll just cut myself another piece of this. So what's important is that you use some thin acetate. That way you can stamp through it, and the ink will hit the paper, because this isn't so thick that your stamp can't reach the paper. I tried this with cardstock and it just really didn't work. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is kind of lay things out a little bit so that I know where I want everything. I think that's about where I want it. So I am going to just gonna give myself another little reference line here so that I know for the second line I want it to line up with this, and then for the first line, because once I get that dark animation grid over it, it's going to be really hard to see how to line this all up. Hopefully this helps me. Okay, so that's what I'm going to aim for. And then I just need to make sure I'm centered left to right. So what I'm going to do next is, now I'm going to tape down my animation grid that's been cut out of the super thin acetate, and I'm actually going to try to line up the lines with my grid lines. So that's how I'll know that it is straight. Go ahead and tack that down. And what you want to do is just make sure you pull it. This is pull it a little, somewhat taut, so that you get really nice flush contact between the acetate and, oh, this is moving. You want nice flush contact between the acetate and your cardstock. Kind of like when you stencil. That way your ink only goes where you want it. Alright, so that's good. Word 4, we'll go there. Okay, so because my animation grid is green, I'm going to be stamping with green distress ink, and this happens to be Mode Lawn. So I did do a couple of test runs on just regular printer paper, and I found that it's really better if you ink up really well and just stamp the one impression, because otherwise you might get a little bit of too much ink on the paper, and it'll start to kind of bleed outside of the lines. And it works best when you just have just enough ink that it gets through to the parts of the cardstock that are exposed. But when you stamp multiple times, then the ink soaks in more, and then it starts to spread beyond where your grid lines are. So I'm just going to try to line this up in the center, and just going to give it a firm press. And there's our first stamp. And then I'm going to lift up my animation grid and then you want to slide your animation grid so that the black lines cover your previously stamped word. So now you can't see the word for anymore. And now I'm going to stamp down here. Okay, that's what I'm aiming for. So just make sure it's just inked up really well, because I just want to stamp the one time. If you do need to stamp multiple times with these, since they're tall and you can't put them in a stamp positioning tool, you can always use one of these sort of old school stamp positioning tools and sort of line this up where you think you might want to go. But like I said, it's ideal to not have to stamp multiple times, because you just don't want to over ink it. But ooh, I almost stamped her name upside down. So I'll just use that to help position. Get one good stamping in, and that should be good to go. So now I can pull this up. And then to clean this, I just flip it upside down on a shop cloth. Put another piece of shop cloth over and just kind of wipe it like that. I don't want to be too rough with this because it's very thin acetate, but that just kind of cleans it up a little bit so that the next time I stamp through it, it will not pick up the previous ink color. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. If we run our grid over this, it does blink back and forth. So, yay. That's awesome. So I like that with these animation grids, being able to cut your own and being able to kind of create your own animations just using stamps that you already have, you can really get a lot of use out of these, because then it's not just about using the animated stamps that they've designed, but you can also create some pretty fun animations on your own. So there you can see her name. I'm not running this super straight, so here we go. So I think it'll be fun to do this especially for my nieces and nephews, so that their presents will all be under the tree. They'll have these little tags on them, and then they can each kind of have a turn at playing with the animation to figure out, whose gift is whose. This one in particular is for my sister-in-law, but I will be doing my nieces and nephews gift tags as well. And, they have Vietnamese names, and so it's nice to be able to use something like these pegs stamps, because I can spell out their names, since I'm not going to be able to buy a stamp that has their names. So being able to customize and stamp out your gift recipient's name and create a custom animation is kind of fun. So they get something that's really, they know is definitely handmade just for them, and something that's kind of fun and interactive to play with. Okay, so let me finish up the actual tag construction. So just going to erase my lines here. And I didn't stamp the word for very centered, but I am okay with that. Just have to live with it. I think it's more important that the animation works correctly. So since that works, I think we are good. The other thing is, I haven't tried this, but it might be interesting to see if you can just kind of use a pen and just write the right words over it through the grid. So instead of stamping for lists, instead I would just take a marker and then just write in my own handwriting. And I may experiment with that to see if that works, because that might be something that's kind of fun to do and really easy, and could be a lot simpler than especially if you don't have one of these pegs sets. So that'll be an experiment for another day. So now to construct all of this, first thing we need to do is put our animation grid onto the front of the tag. So I'll just use some double-sided adhesive tape. So the tag already has a acetate window, and then the back of my animation grid has acetate as well. So once this is all together, the grid lines will be sandwiched between two pieces of acetate, so they're going to be well protected. Nothing's going to get snagged. So when I put this on, I'm going to try to get it as straight as possible. So I'm gonna use the grid lines on my mat here. Just try to get this to line up with those lines. Let me bring this closer so I can actually see. Yep, so that works. And whenever I'm burnishing, do try to protect the acetate, so there we go. Next is you want to feed your tag through the slot. Let me just make sure this is so that goes through your slot, and then the instructions provided in the kit suggest putting their foam all the way around, and that's just going to provide a little bit of extra room so that the tag insert can glide smoothly. And the other thing is, because there's kind of some wiggle room here, the foam is also going to kind of create some rails for this to slide straight up and down, because it does need to go, straight up and down, so that you can kind of best see the animation, because when it gets all, wonky side to side, it's a little bit harder to see the words. So what we'll do is I'll just slot this in here. And then using the foam strips that they provided, I'll go ahead and we'll start with the top. So I pushed the tab in so that it's flush with the bottom, and we'll say that's as far up as we want folks to push. So I'll put a little bit, a small strip here, and that'll be a stopper so that you can't push it up beyond that. And then I'm going to run some strips down the two sides. It already has a stopper on the bottom because this tab is, the little slot is more narrow than the full width of the tag. So don't have to worry about the tab getting pulled out. This does seem really sticky, by the way, so it does seem like it's pretty good quality. I want to get close but not touching, so that the animation grid doesn't have a lot of wiggle room to kind of slide all wonky, but at the same time the foam won't interfere with the movement too much. Just enough to kind of keep it on track. And I like to be generous with my foam. I'll probably use that in a bit. And then I'm going to put another strip. So make sure that's straight. Because you could put the foam like all the way to flush with the edge of the gift tag, but if you did that, then there would be a lot of play, and you could, as you're sliding the tag, in and out, it could wobble quite a bit. And just playing with the animation grid and the stamped, just previewing it, I definitely could tell that if you don't have everything lined up really straight and neat, then it does make it a little bit harder to kind of read the animation, what's going on. Because what is creating the animation is basically your grid is sort of filling in the lines. So here's the word for. It sort of fills in where you would normally expect to see ink, and so you can actually read the word for. But then when you slide it down a little bit, the grid lines cover where you stamped, and the next word is revealed. But if you're sliding all wonky, then those lines that were stamped aren't going to be covered 100%. So you'll still be able to see like a little bit of the word for example, and you don't want that. You want only, the name to be visible in this case. So that's why everything has to line up really, really well, including the movement as much as possible as you slide it in and out. So that's why I've tried to keep these little foam strips really as close to the tag as possible, but it's still going to slide, in and out with ease. And these are a little too high up, so what I'm gonna do is, that's sticky. So what I'm gonna do is slide it all the way down, and then only gonna put adhesive along here. That way it can go all the way down. Get the full effect. Let's use up the little pieces first. I like keeping I'm generous with my foam because I like as much as possible to kind of keep everything nice and flush so that when you hold the card, there aren't like weak spots where something starts to kind of cave in on you. So there we go. So now we've got full movement up and down. Before I close this up, let me decorate this little tab. So let's see. Okay, that's one piece I didn't die cut in advance. Oh, the other great thing about this project is you can do all of it on a mini die cutting machine. So all of the dies fit into my Spellbinders Prism. So that's really cool too. This is like, since I'm going to be making a lot, this seems to be working out, so I think I will use these as the gift tags for Christmas presents this year. And since it worked out so well, this will be a fun little project that I can kind of just do in front of the TV, especially since I can just use my mini here. So that'll be super convenient. I'm just gonna cut a little bit. I am die cutting the one that has the word pool, so let me go, actually, before I even take it out, let me just add a little shim. Make sure the letters in the word actually die cut. It should work just fine, but just in case. Yep. Sometimes it's really nice to work on these smaller projects because it's so convenient to just use the mini die cutting machine rather than having to work on pull out my large platform machine. Although I will say that even though the die for the animation grid fits through my prism, it seems like the prism just doesn't have enough pressure to cut out this, because you really do need, and they say this, the Motion Crafts tutorial videos all say this as well, it's, you know, if you have a machine that has like a precision plate or, you know, something for your more intricate dies, that they definitely advise using that, because these are such fine, delicate cuts. So I've had to use my, even my Cuttlebug doesn't do a super great job. So I've been using my Fun Stamper's Journey Platinum machine, and that definitely has enough pressure to cut through. My Cuttlebug will cut it, but I feel like it needs like 6 passes and a lot of shims to get the right pressure, whereas my Platinum cuts it in 1 pass, and if I shim it, and 2 passes if I don't add a shim, so it's a lot faster to just use the larger machine. Got a little bit of fuzz there. Okay, so we have our decorative top layer, we've got our tag, we feed that through, and then now we just need to attach this to the back piece. And I actually don't mind leaving the top so that there isn't any foam, because when I put some ribbon through here, this will get pinched together, and I think it'll be nicer if it can actually pinch closed rather than have that dimension with the foam. So I'm gonna leave that without foam. So these little strips are definitely convenient to use, and what I generally do is I buy foam sheets that already have adhesive on one side, and then on the other side what I do is I prepare myself strips like these, but I have double-sided tape in a variety of different widths, so I'll prepare myself, you know, a couple strips of 1/8 inch, a couple strips of 1/4 inch, a couple strips of 1/2 inch, and then I have strips of a variety of widths ready to go whenever I have a project. So it's nice that you can buy them pre-made like this, but honestly it's easier and cheaper to just make your own too. So that's always an option. Oops. Just make sure that your tag is not touching any of the foam. Okay, so then I'm just going to make sure that everything is flush. Yep, okay. Let me give this a good burnish around. That is our custom animated gift tag complete. So how fun is that? So I know that I didn't use any stamps in their set, which obviously would be a lot easier because you don't have to stamp through the acetate like I did. So if you were going to use something in their set, you just stamp your image and you're good to go. But as I mentioned, whenever I consider buying something, I always think about whether it's something that I can kind of use beyond how they've designed the kit and or, get multiple different types of use out of it. So the die set, has just really general purpose gift tag dies, which are fantastic. So you can get a lot of use out of that. But then the whole concept of being able to create your own animation stamps is a really awesome extension of how to use these products, and I'll continue to explore different ways of creating my own animation stamps because I feel like being able to use things out of my stash and create something totally different with them just gives new life to old things that I already have, and then, extends the use of what seems like a very specialized, system, right? But knowing that you can create your own animations, I think is just means that you're gonna get so much more use out of not only this product, but as I mentioned, older products in your stash as well. And certainly these are really fun animations, so I'll try to see what I can use out of my stash to replicate some of the different styles of animations that they have, and maybe sort of demystify a little bit how all of this works, because it just seems like magic to me. But we'll see how far along I get. If I stumble upon something that is useful or interesting, I'll be sure to share. But I do have a couple more kits that I've purchased, and I actually have yet to use these stamps as well, so I'll definitely make some more projects, which I'll share on my Pinterest and blog if you're curious to see those. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope this has been a fun video, and hope that everybody's staying safe out there and hanging in there. Until my next video, have a fantastic day and happy crafting. Thanks. Bye.